Yeah, sorry for this technical issue. Can you hear us?
Yes, yes, we hear.
Yes.
Thank you, Sergey.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone, dear colleagues and dear students. We are very pleased to welcome you to our lecture series, Anthropology and Security Studies. Thank you, Sergey Geraskov, who invited us to his course. Yes, and it's course, the place for our series of our lectures, Dr. Giovanni Ercolani. This initiative brings together students and researchers interested in understanding how culture, identity, human behavior shape the field of security in today's complex world. And it's great honor for us to invite Dr. Giovanni Ercolani, sociocultural anthropologist, member of the research group Society and Culture at the University of Mursii in Spain, and a fellow of the Royal Anthropological Institute of Great Britain and Ireland. Dr. Ercolani will open the series today with the lecture Anthropology and Security Introduction. Yes. We are truly grateful for his participation and for sharing his experience, his insights with our students and with our colleagues. And Dr. Giovanni Ercolani maybe will introduce himself better. Yes, tell something about himself. Welcome. Oh, Sergey, maybe you, not? Some couple words or Giovanni Ercolani.
It's up to you.
Yeah, ciao Giovanni. Sorry for
Ciao,
this.
Sergey.
And I'm happy to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Giovanni Ercolani. He's a sociocultural anthropologist, and he has Ph.D. in security studies and international relations, and Ph.D. in social anthropology. And Giovanni is a researcher at the Society and Culture Research Group at the University of Murcia, Spain, and as mentioned above, elected fellow of the Royal Anthropological Society, Institute of Great Britain and Ireland. And as you can understand, Giovanni's research area covers security studies, and there will be a series of lectures scheduled for October and November. And Giovanni kindly agreed to make some introduction into anthropology and security studies. And I'm happy to give the floor to our speaker with his first lecture today, entitled Anthropology and Security. And Giovanni, the floor is yours for the next 1 hour, and maybe then we have a brief Q&A session. Please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, first of all, good morning, everybody, for being here. And sorry for my Italian accent. I hope we will be able to understand each other and talk about myself. Yes, I had a different career. I have an academic career, and previously I had a military career. And I worked for NATO for years in Turkey from 1992 to 1996, basically when we were covering the problem in the Bosnian War. And this was after the Iraqi invasion. After I spent time in Turkey teaching global terrorism and peacekeeping and conflict resolution for a United Nations program, UNITAR POCI. And basically my research, I try to combine my background of international relations and security studies with anthropology, but as a friend of mine said to me, from a philosophical point of view, because through my experience and sharing my idea, my experience with other people, we understand is an interesting topic, security, but it's not only related to military. So when I talk about security, I say to the people, I do not do strategic studies. I do security studies, which is a little bit different. So now I'd like to, because I prepared the PowerPoint presentation in which I organize my course. So I will try to share my screen with you. Let me see, because I'm a little bit spastic with this one. Okay.
Yeah, please.
Well, I try to do it. Mute my background. I don't know how to do it. Sorry.
You just need to press share the screen button.
Okay. Thank you.
And then choose the screen relevant for your presentation.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see if I can do like that. 1 second.
Sergey, you set recording.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. So let me okay. First of all, always I say that I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think. And in the last period, having conversation with a colleague of mine, I said that maybe in the future I won't teach, but I will teach using only my questions. More I keep going and analyzing security, and from a different perspective, I come up with more questions, and I don't know about my answer. 1 second. So basically, this seminar is a journey through my questions, and the answer I think I found. So I don't pretend to do anything. I'm not, I don't know, I don't have the veritas in my hands. So I just try to pass some idea to the student, basically some doubts. I love doubts, and I think that my religion is a doubts, is full of doubts. Basically, this is what I will try to pass to my student, okay? Because basically, if we are all here today, is because, as Socrates used to say, we are looking for the truth, the veritas. And the journey to the veritas is very, very complicated and very difficult. There are so much interest around veritas and too much money, and much more when we're dealing with security issue. There is always money and power connected. So demo the seminar, basically, I try to, I don't know how to, because the thesis basically is covering, 1 second, I try to.
Interrupting you, I'm afraid your slides are not changing. And,
1 second, I go back again.
maybe you should make a full screen. My Italian is not so good, but maybe presentazione button.
Yeah. Oh my God. I don't know what's happened.
Or as a point to send this presentation, to send, yes, and to comment like slide number 1, slide number 3, yes, and everyone can watch this slide.
Sorry, try again to okay.
Now it's perfect.
Yes, yes.
Now it's perfect.
It's
Okay.
working. Mhm.
1 second, I try to do something. Okay, perfect. Can you read it?
Yeah.
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
excellent. So basically, the aim of the seminar is to develop the argument of the need of an anthropological approach to security studies. For this purpose, the seminar looks at the limit that the orthodox understanding of security imposed as an hegemonic reading, grammar, protocol of interpretation of what in security was during the Cold War. Analyzes the emergence of critical security studies and of the new international security environment which developed after the fall of the Berlin Wall. New threats, new insecurity, new security securitization discourse, and new and old actors. Follows the evolution of recent military, NATO, USA, etc. intervention and looking at their result. And it argues the need to work on an establishment of an anthropology of security which, inspired by the principle of human security and positive peace, contributes actively to produce a security knowledge not entrapped inside the security paradox, security paranoia, interpretive dangerous circle. This is the program, our 4 meetings. Today, I will introduce what is anthropology security studies, the production of knowledge, and so and so. And as I told you, it's a journey. So the next meeting, I will talk about the NATO, about cultural intelligence. The third one will be based on the anthropological gaze, a paper I wrote some time ago. And the fourth one basically is about my fieldwork experience. So when we talk about anthropology and security studies, what we are talking about? We try to work in putting together anthropology and security studies, basically applying anthropological methods to security issue, focusing on how security affects people's lived experience rather than solely large-scale military or political events. This is what I said before. We are not doing here strategic studies. This interdisciplinary approach examines the human, social, and cultural dimension of security, offering critical insight into topics like policing, border control, and the impacts of surveillance. The goal is to understand security challenges from the perspective of those most affected, contributing to the more effective and human secure practices. Our anthropology contributes to security studies. First of all, we focus on lived experience. Anthropologists bring a focus on how security and insecurity are experienced in everyday life, moving behind abstract notion of state or international security. We use ethnography methods. The use of anthropological fieldwork and case studies provides detailed, in-depth understanding of the operational environment where security issues unfold. We are interested in the cultural context. It emphasizes understanding security within this broader socio-cultural context, recognizing that security is a fundamental human desire across all culture. Critical perspective, it provides a critical arm to security studies by examining the power structure and impacts of security practices on diverse populations, including counterterrorism and policing. The broader scope of security is support the expanded understanding of security beyond the traditional military sphere to include economic, environment, and societal dimension. Can you follow me? Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
The key area of studying and the intersection is policing and the front lines, border control, surveillance and surveillance technologies, humanitarian and development security. And basically, the last one is a very important one because I had experience with the CIMIC operation, something which I will explain in the coming days. Benefits of this international approach: more effective strategies, a deeper understanding of local culture and context can lead to more effective and culturally appropriate security strategies, and more human approaches by focusing on the people affected by insecurity. The approach aims to reduce the strains of life-determining insecurity, broader theoretical insight, integrating anthropological theories with critical security theory can lead to a more nuanced understanding of complex security issues. I come up with the two leitmotifs of this seminar. The first one is that we need to interpret interpretation more than to interpret things. And the second one is that we have also to keep in our mind that a theory is always for someone and for some purpose. Perspectives derive from a position in time and space, especially social and political time and space. The world is seen from a standpoint definable in terms of nation, social class, dominance or subordination, of rising or declining power, of a sense of immobility or of present crisis, of past experience, and of hopes and expectation of the future. So basically, this is what I ask to my students, always to have a very skeptical approach on what we are doing. So I will start with my first lecture one, where I will talk about anthropology, the production of knowledge, new times, new empire, Security Profondo. Well, you can read it. Okay, and after that, I hope we are going to have time for questions and answers. So this is basically the map of my journey. What I'm interested is basically the production of security knowledge. I'm not interested to produce a narrative which can be used for propaganda or lie or for just some part of the people or the structure which contains the reality and the truth in analyzing a security issue. Basically, I'm interested in the production of security knowledge. So where basically anthropology and security studies they meet is they meet when we're talking about social security. And through this relationship between anthropology and social security, I think and I believe we can arrive to the production of security knowledge. So anthropology and security studies, anthropology key concept. What we are talking about, basically the big question of what I'm doing is still try to provide an answer to the big question, what is a man? Man is not only a body. We're not just a biological creature, we are a cultural creature. Therefore, when we try to study and understand the human being, apart from the body, we have to study the mind, the consciousness, what is around him, how the human being constructs himself, how the man, the human being, produced his own verb to becoming, which is not just a body, but is becoming something different, what he is and what I am. So anthropology is the study of people throughout the world, their evolutionary history, how they behave, adapt to different environments, communicate and socialize with one another. The study of anthropology is concerned both with the biological features that make us human and with the social aspects, such as language, culture, politics, family, and religion. Ethnography is a branch of anthropology and is thematic study of individual culture. Ethnography explores cultural phenomena from the point of view of the subject of the study. Ethnography is also a type of social research that involves examining the behavior of the participant in a given social situation and understanding the group members' own interpretation of such behavior. The term fieldwork, which is for me is extremely important, always I say you can read or you have been reading all the books about anthropology, but if you are not familiar with the fieldwork, excuse me, you are not an anthropologist. So the term fieldwork is used to describe research in all areas of anthropology, from social and cultural anthropology to medical biological anthropology. The practice of fieldwork can be done in a variety of different settings, such as an urban or virtual environment, a small tribal community, a museum, library, cultural institution, business, or a pre-med conversation area, or a conflict area, or a post-conflict area. So basically, when I give my seminar here at the Mursii University, I say to the student what an anthropologist does. Basically, an anthropologist travel with Don Quixote and Sancho Panza. Don Quixote and Sancho Panza, they represent two human beings who basically interpret and translate the reality around them through different eyes, through different culture and background. As anthropologists, we are faced, everybody dealing with the social sciences, with two big ontological and epistemological questions. What is reality and what is reliable knowledge? And here we face again, when we look at the Sancho Panza and Don Quixote, because we have to find the same people around in post-conflict situation or insecurity situation, because identity is always a narration. Basically, we travel around reality, what's going on. I travel with a company and taking notes of what Don Quixote and Sancho Panza, they translate their reality around them and how they behave, they react around or toward this reality. So what is reliable knowledge? Reliable knowledge is knowledge that has a high probability of being true because its veracity has been justified by a reliable method. Reliable knowledge is sometimes called a justified true belief to distinguish reliable knowledge from belief that is false and unjustified or even true but unjustified. When I dealing with Don Quixote and Sancho Panza or with all other human beings, we as anthropologists, we work with this category. We will find them anytime we do research and field works. Identity, culture, myth, symbols, ritual, rite, rule, emotion, belief, and narrative. Identity is the fact of being who or what a person or thing is. The close similarity or affinity, culture, myth. A point here, because you can read them, always pay big attention to the emotion. Emotion is strong feelings deriving from one circumstances, mode, or relationship with others. Instinctive or intuitive feelings as distinguished from reasoning or knowledge. So all this category, all of them, they have a strong impact of the emotion of the human being. The moment you touch or humiliate or you offend the identity, the culture, the myth, the symbol, the ritual, the rule, the belief, the narrative of the other, you are touching the emotion of the other. Because everybody is interpellated by them. So basically, according to Althusser, interpellation describes how ideology ails individuals, transforming them into subjects by offering them identities and roles that they internalize, often unconsciously, through social and institutional practices. Ailing, the term interpellation is derived from hail, meaning to call out to someone. Ideology functions by addressing individuals and calling them to recognize themselves in certain roles and identities. Interpellation is how ideology molds us into subject by offering us a framework for understanding ourselves and the world, and we in turn readily accept this framework, believing it to be our own self-discovery rather than a socially constructed identity. So again, Don Quixote clings as all the human beings to this what I call grips of identity to build his own identity. Can you follow my journey? Excuse me.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, excellent. When I talk again about methodology and method, the first quality of an anthropologist is curiosity, basically. Astonishment and curiosity, appetite for knowledge and truth. There can be a very strong interest to peering through the curtains of pre-interpretation. This is come from an essay from Milan Kundera. Okay, the interest, the desire, and the really strong need to be there. I want to be in the field where the action take place. Is not just a big expert of international relations studying or reading about reality being sitting there, the partner. No, no, I want to be there. I want to be there with the action start, where the action is where the insecurity situation is lived. Second is saboreare, sabor and saber. To know is to taste. It doesn't mean that you have been reading and writing book about pasta alla carbonara or wine or whiskey. My question is, have you ever tried to not only to taste, to eat pasta alla carbonara, to drink wine, or to cook pasta alla carbonara? So basically, to know is to taste. Deep hanging out is a modality, is a method. Okay, basically, I used it in a work I did here in Spain about basically flaneuring. Deep hanging out is walking around and looking what is going on around us. Sharing experience, we must be ready to be ready to listen to the others. We want to share experience. I want to listen my informant, how he live a situation, what he's doing, what is his dreams, and everything. Important, participant observation and internship. Again, be there, okay, be there with the people, with the community you are interested to study. Thick description and deep description, you can find them on internet, but basically I had this deep description. What I notice when we talk about international relations, about security studies, and about even if anthropology, all these emotions, a lot of time they're not mentioned. It's like we are emotional animals. The importance of emic perspective, I'm interested to know what the other is telling me, how we see the reality, and the use of semi-structured interview. These are my instruments. Here I'm at this one, okay, participant observation, to reach the anthropological place, basically camouflage. You must become the other. Thick description and emic perspective. You have to start to move from to see, to look at, and to watch, to observe. This is basically how you became an anthropologist. Not just seeing or look at, watching and observing, translating the reality around you, giving a meaning as using the emic perspective of what you see around you. Identity. Identity is one of the most important terms, category we use in our research. Okay, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, is the fact of being who or what a person or thing is. A close similar affinity. The word identities come from the Latin idem, the same, and itas, via the late Latin identitas, meaning sameness, to be the same. Okay. Identity is the set of qualities, beliefs, personality traits, appearance, or the expression that characterize a person of a group. Identity is a culturally and social constructed phenomenon, not a fixed or innate quality, referring to both individual self-perception and group identification within the cultural context. It is a complex, multifaceted, and ongoing process, constantly being negotiated through actions, beliefs, and interaction within social framework encompassing diverse aspects such as gender, ethnicity, nationality, and even situational roles. When I did my field work in Kiev, in Ukraine, before the conflict, and I wrote my book about the Maidan Museum preserving the spirit of Maidan, art, identity, and the revolution of dignity, I created with this, this category or by concept that the human being is an animal identitarian. Due to the vital importance identity has to human nature, I do consider man as an animal identitarian, which means that his outstanding attribute and essence is a striving for identity. Humankind is in constant and anxious research and construction of his or her own identity. This is very important for us dealing with security issues. The animal identitarian creates his her identity through symbols, rituals, myths, which become their own marks of identity. They protect it, and she can even kill in the name of identity. Is her identitarian symbols, ritual, and myth form an existential, reverent, sacred environment and territory. His interpretive paradigm, her language and grammar, the real world, are wholly sacred for them, providing meaning of life, a sense of belonging. So when we enter in an area where there's been a conflict, and most of the time an ethnic conflict or an identity conflict, we are dealing with this animal identitarium. Culture is the other important category we work with. Culture denotes an historical transmitted pattern of meanings embodying symbols, a system of inherited conception expressed in symbolic forms by means of which men communicate, perpetuate, and develop their knowledge about and attitudes toward life. This culture and everything that produce a cultural system. And when we enter as anthropologists in our fieldwork, we enter in a cultural system, but this cultural system is present now. You don't need now to go to Africa to do research. We can do the same research about African society, of African tribes and everything. We can do the same here in Spain, in Italy, in England, and so because these people who immigrate here, basically they bring with them their own cultural system. Basically, a cultural system make use of cultural patterns, religious, philosophical, aesthetic, scientific, ideological, which are programs, like a computer programs, because they provide a template or blueprint for the organization of social and psychological process, much as genetic system provide such a template for the organization of organic process. In this cultural system, the individual, following cultural patterns, produce a response to anxiety, fear. So the response to our fear, anxiety, which are a little bit different than anxiety, fear, follow a cultural program. For gives the response to an insecurity threat is cultural, because like a frightened animal, a frightened man may run, hide, bluster, descend, placate, or desperate with panic, attack, but in his case, the precise patterning of such overact is guided predominantly by culture rather than genetic templates. Anthropological place, this is basically where we do our research, is a place intensely symbolized, lived by individuals in which they found a spatial, temporal, individual, and collective benchmarks. For the anthropologists, it is a space in which we can read and decode the social relation and the common force of belonging. Here we go to the security studies and the security concept. I hope you are able to follow me and I'm not a little bit bored for you. So when we talk about security studies, it's an academic subdiscipline of international relations that focuses on the analysis of organized violence, military conflict, national security, and international security threat, such as terrorism, cyber attacks, pandemic, and natural disasters. It uses a multidisciplinary approach and political science, international relations, and strategic studies to understand the causes, dynamics, and solutions to various security challenges, preparing students for careers in government, intelligence, and risk advisory. But when we are dealing with security, and this is something which I wrote and I present in my books, we are dealing, and this is how I threaten, security for me is a myth. I put in the category of a myth. Basically, I use Roland Barthes. Security is a myth because it's a system of communication based on two levels. The first is the language level. Securities come from Latin, meaning is without anxiety, not fear, without anxiety, sine curas. Second one is the meta-language level. For example, NATO, through the securitization process, produce a security myth, security NATO, which is presented as the reality, the reliable knowledge, and has the answer to the security dilemma, the meta-security. When we look at a security organization like NATO, NATO is a power, knowledge, securing structure, which produces a security myth, security dilemma, and process of securitization. What is a security dilemma? A security dilemma refers to a situation wherein two or more states are drawn in a conflict, possibly in a war over security concern, even though none of the states actually desire conflict. It occurs when two or more states each feel insecure in relation to the other states. Non-understanding involved want a relation to deteriorate, but as each state acts militarily or diplomatically to make itself more secure, the other state interpret its action of threatening. Basically, the security dilemma is based on the interpretation of what the other is doing. Basically, as I said, it's a complex relationship of both psychological and material dimensions. It is a two-level predicament in relation between states and other actors, which each level consisting of two related dilemmas, dilemma of interpretation and dilemma of response, which force decision makers to choose between them. A ironic circle of unintended provocation emerged, resulting in the escalation of the conflict, which may eventually lead to open a warfare, security paradox. This is the reason we need to produce real security knowledge, because we have to avoid the security paradox. This is the big mistake normally security experts do. They do not consider what is produced the security paradox. Okay, the security paradox, as defined by Ken Booth and Nicholas Wheeler in their work Rethinking the Security Dilemma, is a situation where states, seeking only to improve their own security, provoke increased mutual hostility and ultimately decrease the collective security through their words or action. It is the outcome of the security dilemma where defensive actions are misinterpreted as aggressive, leading to a spirit of fear, mistrust, and conflict that was not initially intended by any party. So you understand the danger to fall down inside the trap of security paradox. Key aspects of security paradox: mutual insecurity, misinterpretation, intentional versus unintended consequences, fear and uncertainty, and negative outcome of the security dilemma. Okay, this is the point which I point out. More important is the process of the securitization, is how an event became a security problem. The process of securitization is what in language theory is called a speech act. Security is the move that makes politics behind the established rules of the game and frames the issue either as a special kind of politics or as above politics. Securitization is a more extreme version of politicization. This is very important. In theory, any public issue, let's see COVID, for example, can be located on the spectrum ranging from not politicized, meaning the state does not deal with it, and is not in any other way made an issue of public debate or decision, through politicized, meaning the issue is part of public policy, requiring government decision and resource allocation, or, more rarely, some of other form of common governance. To securitize, this is the top point, okay, meaning the issue is presented as an existential threat. This is very important, existential threat, requiring emergency measure, at the time state of emergency, and justifying action outside the normal bounds of political procedure. So, this is the reason we need to produce legitimate security knowledge. The truth, the veritas. Legitimate security knowledge is security knowledge which one can profess as a security expert with a degree of seriousness and without being labeled as an idealist or a fool, or someone working for some weapons or drug company and everything, or for some government. So, this is the point where anthropology and security studies they meet. Is when we moved from different contexts of security and insecurity. I call it the context of liquidity insecurity and the context of the social security sector. This is based on not only my studies, but my experience, basic experience, and my CIMIC, NATO CIMIC courses and United Nations CIMIC courses as a student and as a lecturer. So, this is basically the road how we arrive to the use of critical security studies. Since the implosion of the former Soviet Union, the majority of the conflicts, military operation, crisis management operation in which NATO countries have been involved were of societal, identitarian, ethnic nature, conflicts of meaning. I still remember serving in the Italian armed forces and after NATO when Yugoslavia collapsed and we had a border, Italy had a border with former Yugoslavia, And basically, we were shocked about the events in former Yugoslavia. In a way, I was involved with the Bosnian War and at the NATO level. And everybody was shocked how it's possible that we are facing in this century again and again ethnic conflict. But using the lens of critical security studies, basically in a way we were ready to basically to understand what's going on, to give a picture of the event. So critical security studies is an academic field that uses critical theory to challenge traditional state-centric view of security, focusing instead of how security is socially constructed and its impact on power relation and individual well-being. It expands the concept of security beyond military conflict to include a wide range of issues like environmental degradation, health, migration, and surveillance, analyzing how these are framed as security concerns and by whom. Critical security studies emphasize the social and political processes behind security threats and advocates for human emancipation, critiquing who benefits from existing security regime and who is marginalized by them. Busan identified 5 sectors of security: military, political, economic, societal, and environmental, moving behind traditional military definition to offer a comprehensive view of threats and vulnerability. This framework, articulated in his work like People, State, and Fear, posits that these sectors are interconnected and interdependent, requiring a holistic approach to understand and address threats to the patterns of life varied by individuals and society. So the 5 sectors of security is military sector, political sector, economic sector, social sector, and environmental sector. I am interested, because I want to link anthropology approach to security studies, I'm interested in the social factor, which addresses threats to a society culture, identity, and social fabric, such a threat to ethnic or religious cohesion. So, key principles, okay, interdependence, all these sectors are, there are interdependent between them, holistic approach, and securitization. Busan work also emphasizes the process by which something is designed as a security. We saw this before. So, my focus is on societal security. Social security refers to survival of a community as a cohesive unit. The reference object is very important of insecurity and of security, of the invocation of security, is large-scale collective identities that can function independent from the state, such as nation and religion. Religion is another very important point of this social security approach. So societal insecurities arise when a society fears it will not be able to live as itself and stem from migration, vertical competition, and horizontal competition. Okay? So migration, the influx of people will overrun or dilute a group identity. They need to define Britishness, for example, right now. Vertical competition, the integration of a group within a broader organization. Okay? Horizontal competition, a group is forced to integrate more influential identities within their own. Example, France could reception defend itself against American influence. And here, how they came together. What an anthropologist does when he enters in a society which is experiencing societal insecurity and security. We try to understand and to describe the spirit of the age, the Zeitgeist. We take a picture, basically. Zeitgeist is a German term meaning the spirit of the age and refers to the dominant intellectual, cultural, and ethical climate of a particular era. It captures the general mode, ideas, and social direction of a specific period, influencing philosophy, science, and societal values. The word is common associated with German philosophy and was used by thinkers like Hegel to describe the characteristics of an epoch. This is very important. When I lived in a different country, I lived in different culture, and I can say that, and I lived even if in a different time. every society, if we use the same calendar, live in a different time and a different relation with the same calendar. And unfortunately, this is a reality, something which I witnessed with my personal experience. So key aspect on Zeitgeist, and this is the job of anthropologists, is the cultural and intellectual climate. It encompasses the prevailing ideas, beliefs, and trends within a society at a given time. So you have, as anthropologists, be in this society to understand what's going on. Historical context, it is closely linked to the different historical periods, reflecting their unique characteristics and dominant ways of thinking. Influence society, the zeitgeist can shape scientific thinking, artistic expression, and moral and ethical values within an area. It is really important. Another important topic, which a lot of time is not included in analysis, is emotion. We are dealing with human emotions, and we're dealing with ethnic conflict in general. Emotion are very, very important. Emotion. Another important, the word trauma. When we're dealing with people in conflict area or post-conflict area, never forget we are dealing with people who live in a trauma. Traumatized people is not doing field work in a city where there is peace or in a supermarket. No, no, no. You are doing your field work in an area where people is traumatized. You understand me? The way they can react is completely different from people living in a peace or in normal society. No, no, you are dealing with people who live in a trauma, people that carry, I don't know, the sadness of the loss of their parents, relatives, friends, people who basically cannot dream about the future, cannot dream about tomorrow. So you must be very careful with this field work. And after, you have to remember that you can be contaminated by these emotions. Doing field work in emotional, traumatic environment is very difficult for an anthropologist too. You will feel most of the time the same emotion of your informant, okay? So, and what we do basically, so putting all these things together, we produce a territory, okay? We go to a place like a post-conflict area with a map. But basically this map, it doesn't explain us the territory. Because the map is not a territory. The word is not the thing it describes. Whenever the map is confused with the territory, a semantic disturbance is set up in the organism. And the disturbance continues until the limitation of the map is recognized. So basically we go there because we describe the territory. So I hope you are still following me. Production of knowledge and security studies. When we are dealing with social science, we are dealing with stories, narrative. I really recommend this book about Mary Keldor, Human Security, because we are dealing with stories told by people, told by the authority, and told by the structure which are in charge of your security. Most of the time, we are dealing with events which are produced by language. We call language dependence effect. Okay, meaning language created effects. But most of the time we have to understand that there are independent effects which are produced outside the language. So we have always to understand the meaning of words which are used in describing a security and insecurity situation. If you look, for example, at the production of security narrative during the Cold War, there was a specific narrative and use of some terminology. after the end of the after the implosion of the Soviet Union, NATO came across with a new conflict around them, a new social insecurity. So NATO had to adapt to a new terminology. And recently, in the last 10 years, NATO adopted a critical security studies, terminology. So for the production of security knowledge, always I ask to comply with the 7 security methodological questions. The first one, we saw it before, is about what is reality and what is reliable knowledge. And after you have to enter basically inside the topic, what we consider for security. What is security? What is being security? What is the referent object of security? Is a state, is a community, is an organization, is a sect, is a monument, is a church, is a synagogue, it is a mosque. What is being secure against? Tell me the enemy. Identify the enemy. Who provides security? Armed forces, a security company, a private security company, mercenaries, a religious organization, and what methods can be undertaken to provide it? A war, a military intervention? I don't know. And again, I put together here with the anthropology methodology, which we have to use for giving an answer to this question. So basically, security through this methodology became a grid of interpretation. Once security is transformed in concept, it becomes a grid of interpretation, which then implies a structure. Therefore, as every structure, it has its center, which operates as a kind of panopticon in the Foucauldian sense, from which it gains and controls throughout its own paradigm the territory and the space of its concept. The concept itself has its own peculiar and defined language, which is controlled too. However, the main characteristic of a security concept is that it's tied to a particular political discourse, a territory, a space, a time, and a we other dividing line, and a specific situation. All of these elements, nor even one of them, cannot be excluded from any security analysis. Here, an example. We have the fall of the Berlin Wall, 1989. And here there is a very interesting book, Security and International Relations. Here the author, Edward Kolodziejczyk, what he said, what is basically the essence of this book. This book basically proves and shows the fact that any one of the international relations theory, they were able to understand and to interpret the implosion of the Soviet Union. No one of them. Basically, they didn't know what was going on the other side of the wall. So they were expecting, they were talking, I don't know what. Okay, they were pretending to build up a theory without knowing what was the reality out there. So I really recommend to read this critical book. And again, when we as a NATO country, we were faced with the collapse of Yugoslavia and the conflict, the ethnic conflict which started around the former territory of Yugoslavia, how we describe the reality there. The Bosnian War, and this is an official, this was presented in official books, EU, United States, and after were adopted in NATO, to describe the ethnic conflict or the ethnic hate present in Bosnia. They were used 2 books. The first one by Rebecca West, which was produced after the First World War. Okay, and the second one, A Balkan Ghost, was a journey made by the journalist Robert Kaplan in former Yugoslavian countries. So basically, we have 2 narratives not based on scientific research, which were used and presented as the reality over there. Basically, the same happened with the conflict in Kosovo, And I can tell you that we got the same with the war in Afghanistan and Iraq and the intervention in Libya. So I really recommend this book about Lenen's security as practice, discourse analysis, and the Bosnian War. This book is really important. Unfortunately, there is not an English translation. I was very much influenced by this book. Why? Because the writer is a former Italian general, Fabio Mini, former commander of KFOR in Kosovo. Fabio Mini, what is telling us in this book is about his own experience when he went to Kosovo. He received some briefing, some information from NATO saying, okay, you are going there and this is the picture, the reality over there. The moment Fabio Mini arrived to Kosovo and became the commander of the KFOR, he realized that the reality around him was completely different from the blue guide, like a tourist guide he received. So he started with this book to deconstruct the official narrative about what was the reality in Kosovo. And it's basically the same a friend of mine is doing right now in Kosovo again. And this woman is doing a thesis and she's a journalist and she's traveling around Kosovo. Basically, she's doing the same. So, and what is interesting in this war, in the asymmetry of war and terror, fear dominates. Understanding this, so understanding the fear is already a way to free ourselves from it. So the anthropologists, in this case is the military, they go there to try to understand the fear of the local population. So I come up with my idea that security myth is an idiosyncratic concept, basically on the cultural idiosyncrasy, what is peculiar of a culture that can spark particular anxiety, fear, emotion in individual in its geopolitical context. Then, being a cultural phenomenon, it carries with it its own peculiar cultural relativism. This is the construction of it. Basically, the insecurity, the security threat always is described as the it. But what is this it? We don't know. We construct our own monsters and devils. And after is based on individual idiosyncrasy, the particular nature of the political leader or agency to which is recognized an authority and then can perform the security and security speech narrative act. So basically it is produced by the political leader, okay, using cultural messages or the culture already present among his people and his audience. Can you follow me? Are you still there? Hello?
Yes, yes, we follow. Yes.
Okay, excellent.
It's okay.
It's okay. I don't know if we have time for questions because it's 2:15. I don't know if you want, I can keep going or we can stop. I can continue the next time. I don't know. It's up to you.
Yeah, if possible, we have another 5 or 7 minutes to wrap up.
Okay, excellent. Because I was checking the watch. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, new times, new empires, and new security map. We enter, okay, after the implosion of the Soviet Union in a new, I don't know, in a new world. Basically, I don't like the word a new order. We have different order in the world, and all of them, I think, in a very cynic way, they refer to their own financial system. So basically, there is a NATO Wall Street order. There is another order in China, which basically refers to their stock exchange, a Russian order, and a BRICS order that they will try to construct. And of course, they will need a financial center. So we move to an end of traditional imperial power to critical security threats, liquid society fear. These are concepts by Zygmunt Bauman. The idea of a risk society and how the concept of risk was present in NATO. This is something which I will develop in the coming lecture. the production of NATO strategic concepts, which are very interesting to understand the evolution of the insecurity of NATO, how they perceive insecurity, and the construction of we, the others, or we and the rest of the world. So, what emerged from this human laboratory is a problem of philosophy of science in which ontological and epistemological questions have to be re-represented in order to falsify the methodology of research. This is, okay, yeah, Karl Popper. The concept of security is not anymore tied to a military interpretation and a military solution. The state doesn't retain the same quality and amount of power is important, as before, and what power it does and have has been transformed. Power, considered as domination, political, economic, or social, is held in the hands of non-state actors. Look at, for example, the power of the Lloyds of London, the power of BlackRock, that's all, and other agencies of varying degrees of legitimacy and capability. The concept of security is linked to symbolic representation of individual and collective identities. That analysis can ignore the strong link between power and knowledge which inform any of the contentious discourse of security and insecurity. Again, we come across with this big okay, quotation: security is profoundly political. When I develop this concept is, okay, is profoundly political, meaning is produced by political elite based on two ideas. The one by Sun Tzu, know your enemy, and the second one is people go to war for fear, profit, and honor. But what happened when the Soviet Union collapsed? Because we basically didn't know anything about it, so we didn't know the enemy. This happened in Yugoslavia. The same happened, I can say openly now, in Afghanistan, the military intervention in Afghanistan. We didn't know perfectly our enemy. Look at the result of the NATO countries' intervention in Afghanistan. It's been a disaster. So despite the intelligence activities, the academic research, and all the body of knowledge produced during the Cold War and our Soviet Communist fought, did we really know our enemy? If so, they were not able to predict the fall of the Berlin Wall. And the same question can be applied to the dramatic events which erupted in the former communist lands, including former Yugoslavia and the Caucasus. Moreover, taking into serious potential, we can ask the second empirical question: when the Bosnian War erupted, why were we not able to detect how the others were living their fears, honor, and self-interest, and where this motivation located? So, I think that now we can open the floor for questions, if it's okay for you, and I will finish this presentation next time, if it's okay for you.
Perfect.
Hello? Okay.
Thank you for your
So,
it was amazing presentation. Thank you so much, Giovanni. And now we can start the Q&A session. And please, you're welcome to give your feedback, to ask questions, maybe make some comments, or just reflect to what Giovanni has said. Please.
can you see me?
Yeah, sure.
Can you see me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, excellent, because I can't see myself.
Okay, maybe I can start if you are not against. Dear colleagues, thank you very much, Dr. Erkolani, for this fascinating and thought-provoking lecture. I would like to ask about social technologies from the anthropology. I mean this unstable world, insecure world. Yes, I know the reasons of this stable from the work of Bauman, Giddens, yes, sociologists, very popular sociologist. But what's about anthropology? I mean, social technology, how to increase stability in this world, how to increase security on the level of social technologies. Yes, there are some answers on these questions in this science. Thank you very much for
Do
answering.
you mind repeat the question? Excuse me. I got problem. Let me.
I mean, I mean, okay. What's about anthropology? Some social technologies to increase to increase security in our world. Yes.
Okay, I understand now. So you're talking about the cyberspace and everything, how the anthropologists can work on a security message transmitted through social media. I participated last year to a conference in Poland where we discussed this topic, and I come out with the concept of security paranoia. What I see is that there is, well, I can see now in the classroom, there, the new generation, they live in two reality. One is the reality of their normal life, and the second one is the reality provided by the world inside their mobile phone. What I notice is that now through this social media and internet and everything, to broadcast panic, like the experiment of Orson Welles, is very easy. It's very easy. And it's very easy to manipulate people, and how some structure of power and of financial power, they can produce paranoia, which is not based on reality, and describe what is going on. I can tell you something. This is my first experience. Some years ago, during the period of the New Year Eve and everything, I was in Istanbul. And the very night of the New Year Eve, there's been a terrorist attack inside a disco in Istanbul. But I was in Istanbul. And so there was this Italian journalist. She was making, she was producing a news from Istanbul, and basically she was describing like Istanbul in the middle of a civil war. So my mother called me and he said, "Giovanni, what is going on?" I said, "Mama, there is nothing." He said, "But the TV is saying," well, I know that the TV is saying, but it's not the reality. So there was always this difference between what is reality and what is, again, we are in the cave of Plato. There's a huge, huge manipulation. And I noticed this a lot of time, much more when you are dealing with security, people want to instill fear. But this is the same. If you look at, for example, the biggest company dealing with security, and this is basically my first PhD, is the Lloyd's of London. So NATO, and this is what I will talk next week, adopted in a way the language of Lloyd's of London. And basically, the Lloyd's of London was established on the idea to bet on something. A lot of time, the leader, okay, they bet on something because they want to provoke a human reaction. I remember when COVID, and you know, all the, basically how the reality on COVID and the vaccine now, there are some structural power that are against about the reality, about the truth. But I remember when COVID started, okay, people moved because they were interpellated and they were moving. Emotion, they come from Latin, they come from muovere. So you are moved by emotion. They just jump inside Italian supermarket to buy pasta. It is very cultural again, pasta, toilet paper, and other things. And this produced an impact all these emotions they produce an impact, and sometimes this impact is be money, money, money.
Mm-hmm.
You understand me? And after
Yes,
that,
yes,
a
of
much
course.
more now is more dangerous because now we are in a state of emergency. And you know
Mhm.
that in a state of emergency, which is started in Europe, okay, first in France, in the state of emergency, you are not allowed to criticize what is going on. And when the state of emergency is going to finish, we don't know when it's going to finish, in a way, I don't know how much you will be in the position to ask, okay, about what's happened to the state of emergency. But I can tell you, talking about Italy, when this COVID stuff ended, we discovered there's a lot of politicians, they made big amount of money, okay, spreading paranoia. So
Mhm.
basically what anthropologists can do is having contact with other anthropologists and talk about his local reality. Okay, so our contribution is not a big contribution, it's a small contribution. So I can talk about my community. I can talk about I lived the lockdown in Turkey because I was in Turkey. So I can come up saying, okay, the lockdown in Turkey, where I was staying in Izmir, was like that. In Italy, it was like that. So comparing the lockdown and the news. You understand me?
Yes, yes, yes.
So we work in a small community, small realities.
Mhm.
I don't know if I answered to your question.
It means that we are anthropologists, yes, and sociologists and other sciences must open this manipulation, yes, and to show this manipulation from different companies, financial institutions, state institutions, and so on, yes? And
Yes.
to develop critical thinking, if I correctly understand.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. Vitaly Buzань?
Yes, may I? Thank you for your lecture. I have one question related to teaching and pedagogical. Security studies has a lot of terms. Based on your teaching experience, how best to introduce students terms, concepts, categories related to security study? Should we make a separate topic for this or do it gradually? What advice can you give to colleagues who teach security studies?
Using good books of, for example, I come from these critical studies, okay, so Barry Busan, Copenhagen School and everything, but at the same time is to provide students with a large approach, like for example, new political economy. So, because when we are talking about security, we talk about the security of human being, but basically, as I mentioned before, the concept of power. I remember last year I was invited to a conference and I made a joke. People were talking about security and I said, well, tell me about the security and the power of BlackRock. And people were looking at me and said, what is this BlackRock? And we're talking about academic level, so basically 90% of a professor. So what's about the problem created by BlackRock? And for example, to understand now the discourse of security, look, for example, the connection which started in the year 2008 between the Lloyd's of London and security studies and the NATO, the Lloyd's of London and NATO. 2008, the huge Lloyd's security company gave a book to NATO people saying a 360-degree security. So what security is? So it's not just, I said before, it's a more sociological, anthropological, economical approach. We are far away from strategic studies. Strategic is for the military, you understand me? We as a social scientists, we should have a more, let's say, it's not philosophical, a multidisciplinary approach of what security and insecurity is. For example, look at what's happening in your country. Okay, now there is a war. And I've been dealing with Ukraine, even if before the war, because my family, we got friends there and everything. So imagine there will be a peace tomorrow morning. And imagine the territory you got before that will be given to you again. Can you talk about security in your country? To ask about your student, how they will dream their future. What kind of future there will be in front of them? The hospital, the school, jobs. So we talk about a structural insecurity, which of course you don't see an enemy, but the student over there, they're able to dream about the future. They will be in the position to study, to go for a profession, to buy a house. So you understand me? The concept of security is much more large. And I, for example, I come from Italy, where I strongly support the welfare state, health and education. What about, for example, if tomorrow will be free in your country, if your country will be free of war, about health and education? But the same was happening before the war. You understand me? And now, for example, and when I talk about, you say, what is the relationship between health and education in a state? There is Curzio Malaparte, the Italian writer, wrote a book in the 1920s, and he said, you want to develop a country? You want to develop? You invest in education and health system. You want to destroy a country? You destroy the health system and education in a country. You see, we are not talking about the weapons, we are not talking about tanks, we're not talking about airplane, anything. We are talking about education, health, and security. You understand me?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions from our room. Please, Bogdan, go ahead.
Yes. First things first, I need to thank you for such an actually interesting presentation, even though we was not able to see it completely. I have, while listening to this presentation, I had a little, I don't know how to say it, new information for me to understand. It was not directly said in the presentation, but I understood it from it. So, basing on the presentation, the concept of security cannot exist without insecurity, because for security to exist, it needs a dilemma to secure from. So security is enriching. Is it? What's your thoughts about this?
Could you hear Giovanni?
A little bit. Do you mind repeat just the question, please? About
Yes.
what? My source about what?
Is security reachable if we assume that security cannot exist without insecurity? I mean, if in this way
we can't reach security, because I gave you an idea. We were born with anxiety and we are going to die with anxiety. So we were born with insecurity, we're going to end our life with insecurity. So insecurity is part of our life. So it's a human condition. I'm not saying about Schopenhauer, I'm not a nihilist, nothing like that, but insecurity is part of our human existence. That's all. So it's we can construct a kind of security which will permit you to have a kind of normal life, but you can't say that you will have this life for the rest of your life. So security and insecurity is always look, for example, I don't know if you got a car. If you got a car, you have an insurance. Yeah, why you have an insurance? Because you feel insecure, so you pay an insurance. And now what's happening now, I was shocked, some years ago, I was in Murcia, and I was going to the university. I was passing by a bank, and there was an advertisement. Basically, it was a young couple with a baby, a small baby. And the advertisement of the bank was, okay, as soon as you have a baby, okay, you start to pay an insurance for him. Look at you. If tomorrow you fly to the United States, you will be secure or insecure. If something happened to you, an accident, you will be secure. You know how much it will cost you to go to an hospital? You understand me? Yeah. Okay, so to be insecure is our human condition. We can't change the situation. It's human. It's human. It's the basis for all the religion and everything. That's all. So we try to project a security using a philosophy or through your bank account. For example, you want to be more secure. Of course, a lot of time I go to France, and for a reason I stay in Nice, and I go a lot of time. I spend a lot of time to Monte Carlo. Go to Monte Carlo. You see people which are more secure than you. What is secure? It's their bank account where they stay. So they have access. So security, please, I can use Jeremy Rifkin approach about the era of access, is secure sometimes is linked to your capacity to have access to what? To a good education, to good environment, to a good restaurant, to good food, to good air. Yeah, a good hospital. You see, so it's not just a military. Okay, it's a big complex. It's a big complex. I don't know if I answered to your question.
Actually, I have a second question based on that. Does that
Give me 1 second. Excuse me.
Sure.
Yeah, he has another following up question to ask. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Should I? Okay, so I myself actually a student of that studies psychology, and based on that constant human insecurity, like the insecurity is part of ourselves as human beings, we still make mistake of treating harshly anything that is making us insecure. For example, many of social problems in many societies around the world based on paranoia and fear of something that makes us insecure. How can we, as anthropologists, as psychologists, as sociologists, and all of that, can lower that paranoia and fear of insecurity if it's part of ourselves?
You understand?
I understand your question, and I don't have an answer. My answer is what I'm doing. It's our job. How you're coherent with your job and your philosophical idea. I start with my presentation with a phrase by Socrates. The big question of Socrates was, what is truth? Veritas. So, and I agree with you because there is an aspect of the security discourse in which the political elite who produce the security and insecurity discourse, they work like a mental clinic. So a lot of time when you come out with a different perception, reality, and much more is happening in the former Soviet country, you are a crazy person to be put inside an insane, a lunatic hospital. So the first things they will say, oh, you are crazy, you need some drugs and everything. We as a social scientists, which we pretend to be independent, in a way is our mission to be sinners. You know, a sinner, like a sinner, heretics. Yeah. And most of the time we are the one we said, oh, look, the king is naked. You know the story of the king is naked. Who is the crazy one? The people around them, or the boy that say the king is naked? So a lot of time we must be like the king is naked and we have to pay a price. Look at Galileo. But the moment that the Pope put him a knife, Galileo says, sorry, I made a mistake. You know about that. So there's always power. We're talking about a topic in which power is very much interested to manipulate. Okay? Try to go in front of a church, enter in a church, in any church, and say, God doesn't exist. What will happen to you? Or even more, you say the devil doesn't exist. You know how much people are making money with the devil? You know, all the religion based not on God, on the devil. And what about the drugs? I have friends which are who are pharmacists. Go to a pharmacy in Europe. 90% of the products are not for your health. It's just blah, 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 blah. Okay. So the same is, so imagine you go there, you say, oh, this is shit. Come on, they will kill you. Okay. They don't want to listen to this one. So basically it's our mission. We have a kind of mission. That's all. But it's up to you. I met a lot of professors in my career, which basically they were selling their own soul because they received a medal, prize, academic publication, what is the name? Congress, invitation. That's all. We are human beings. Okay? So it's about your ethic.
Thank you. And also I have a question, if you allow. Thank you again for your presentation. Actually, security studies is part of my professional interest in recent years, in particular religious security. But my question is rather methodological. To say roughly, we can distinguish two conceptual approaches to security issue. The first one is based on the problem of value of freedom and personal security, or human security. The followers of this approach somehow believe the security of state and society is not objective per se, and it's only a function to ensure the personal security. I mean, McCormick, etc. But the followers of second approach, on the other hand, highlight the security of state and society, and from their point of view, this hard security prevails. When it comes to anthropological approach, how should we allocate it? I mean, can we apply it to both personal security level and national or state security? Or where should we allocate this anthropological approach to security studies?
I told you before, I use with small communities, okay? And I use a very skeptical approach, I'm sorry. I can tell you, you're talking about state security and human security, personal security. Most of the time, it depends on your bank account. If you have a bank account in Switzerland, there is a war in Ukraine, you take a flight, you escape. You are poor, you stay there and you pay a price. So most of the time is the access to what? Look at your elite. Look at the Italian elite. So we are global elite. They don't care, okay? They go to the special school, high school, okay? They spend holidays spend 1 week in Monte Carlo. You will understand about human security and state security. These people, they don't care. They are millionaires. No one can touch them, okay? The problem is that, I said, for normal people like us, to discover the truth is important, because through the discovery of the truth, we can reconstruct our concept of human and personal security. There are a lot of people which are interested. They sell you the presence of evil, but they are interested to maintain the status quo. And most of the time, the status quo is like they don't give a damn about Ukraine, Italy, or other country. They have look, for example, I worked for a lot of years in dealing with terrorism. Okay, and I remember I went to a conference some years ago, and people were talking about financing of terrorism. And we talk about, oh, we know about Bin Laden. And after I ask to one speaker, I say, excuse me, can you give me the name of the owners of this bank in the fiscal paradise? Oh, we don't know. So you know how Bin Laden received money, but you don't know the name of the owner of these offshore banks. So there is a world which is parallel to our world, completely different. The elite, and now we are talking about the global elite, okay? They have their own, I don't know, way to produce their own security, while the majority of people will try to survive. For example, in Europe, what I see in the last years is the deterioration of the welfare state. But the same happened in Ukraine. I remember reading Le Monde Diplomatique some years ago, even if before the war, that, for example, there is a program to the privatization of health system in Ukraine. So this is a security issue. It's a security issue. We're talking about your body, your dreams, your everything. Is anyone demonstrating about this one? Or people demonstrate for Palestine? So you see, and when you are millionaire, okay, you just take a flight, okay, you go to New York to the best clinic, or in New York or Switzerland. So you don't give a damn. You live a different life. Excuse me. I remember a couple of years ago, I was smoking my cigar on the road, which is connecting Nice to Monte Carlo. It's the old road famous by, you know, there is this Rothschild Villa, Elton John Villa. I was smoking my cigar outside. You know, you can't imagine how many huge cars, Lamborghini, Ferrari, Rolls-Royce, with Ukrainian plaque number and Russian plaque number. Do you really think they fight each other? They go to the same restaurant, they send the kids to the same private university. Excuse me, maybe it's a Marxist approach, but people is people. And for them, we don't count. Look, for example, talk about, you want to talk about security. The other day I was having a lunch with a friend of mine, and the kids is studying a prestigious university in Europe. And the father, who is a very famous medical doctor, said, Giovanni, in this university, they're making research because in the coming years, there will be robots working in the fields. So what about the people who won't have the possibility to have a job, to buy food, to buy house? What we're going to do with these people? So even if artificial intelligence is a problem dealing with security. For example, I don't know now in Kiev, the last time I was in Kiev was before the war. But here, for example, in Europe, you go now to any supermarket, the number of cashier, okay, is being reduced. So now we have electronic cashier. So this means less people working in a supermarket, less people with a salary, less people going. So what will happen to the people? So you see, even if something stupid, because it's a thesis will produce a problem, because what will happen? Talking about the student, okay, the problem of security is dealing with your future. Anxiety is a psychology, studying psychology. It's about I construct my future. If you don't have money, you can't dream what you're going to do. So you see, even if the problem of cashier in a supermarket, in a city of Kiev, can produce a security process, a security concern.
Thank
I don't know
you.
if I answered. I don't know if you are happy with my answers, by the way.
Yeah, grazie, grazie.
Gracias. A ti.
Yeah, we are short of time, and if there are no any other questions or remarks, I would like to finalize and thank again, Giovanni, for your amazing lecture. And just a gentle reminder that this is the first lecture of the mini course that is forthcoming. And I would like to announce the next lecture in 2 weeks, October,
Yes.
same time, same Zoom link.
The
I hope.
23rd, yes.
We will talk about NATO and the evolution of security concept. And thank you again. If you don't mind, we would like to suggest make a photo.
Okay.
Just a minute. Давайте станем на фото. Якщо можна.
На соцмереж.
Десь я позаду вийду. Вже без краю.
Ну, можете трошки скучувати.
Да, давайте ближче.
Ближче до
Це піца.
Дякую.
Grazie, grazie, Giovanni.
Prego. So you can see my picture on my back because I'm a photographer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We know. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, and see you in 2 weeks. See you in 2 weeks, and have a good day. Yeah, and
Thank you so much, and see you 2 weeks. And I hope you are safe there in this city. Oh my God, terrible situation you are living there. Terrible, terrible. I'm sorry for you. Terrible. Believe me.
thank you. We appreciate. Thank you
Thank
all.
you to you. Thank you.
Engagement and bye.
Thank you. See you. Goodbye.
Bye bye. Ciao.